Start our sew along. I'm going to say quilt along, same thing. We're going to start that. I'm going to give you the supply list and give you some ideas. And I'm also going to show you how to use a new ruler that I love, even though it's not mine, I still love it. It's a Studio 180 ruler, and I'm going to show you how to do it because it brings me to my quilt here. This quilt here is called Primrose Lane, and I got a whole bunch of quilts back from Blueprint, and this was one of them, so I can start selling this right now. And I thought this would be a great giveaway for one lucky person who comments, shares, likes us, all that fun stuff. Oh, and say hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
And so I wanted to show you how to do this particular unit because it's a little more difficult, but with the tool, it'll make it so much easier. So this quilt is for the PDF for one lucky winner, and I will draw that like I usually do after we're done with our Facebook Live tonight. But I'm going to show you that after. But the first thing, well, let me show you this too. This is the original quilt, which is called Cross Canoes, and of course the dogs have to be playing with each other as we're trying to do this because the weather's starting to get better and they're all excited. Anyway, this was in American Patchworking Quilting, so the pattern is there if you happen to have this magazine. And Tilly says hi, and Tilly got a haircut, so she is all soft and smells good and looks very springy and stepping on the quilt as usual. So this is the American Patchworking Quilting version of it, and then this one is the one I did for Blueprint. The blocks are a little bigger, but they're done the same way, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So I wanted to show you that, and then we are going to be working on Spice It Up Quilt Along.
Ooh, what's it called?
Spice It Up.
So spicy.
So spicy. This quilt, again, was actually in American Patchworking Quilting. And make sure you say comments, and Mark's going to check them every once in a while and see if anybody has any questions.
That's right. You got to comment, you got to share, you got to like it, you got to tell all your friends about it.
Tell all your friends. And thank you for watching us, by the way. I missed you guys last week. I feel like we've been gone a long time. So we're glad we're back to it. So this is the Spice It Up Quilt Along, and it was originally again in American Patchworking Quilting, and it's a pattern I designed. With this though, I am going to give you some really different options on what you want to do if you want to do something a little different for it. This actually, the supply list is already on my website. I know, she's finally got it together. She's got it up there. And also this is on my website as a PDF too, and it's on sale for the week. So if you happen not to win, you could always purchase the pattern. But anyway,
we want you to win, so make sure you comment, like,
yep,
share, and tell all your
like,
friends.
share, all that fun stuff. So this one is under the quilt alongs. Remember, I have a page when you go into the website. It's the second one down. Click in there, and this will be on there, and you can just print it off, and it gives you the supply list. We're just going to go supply list today. Next week we're going to start cutting, and maybe, I'm not sure if I'm going to have you start sewing yet or not, but I am definitely going to have you cut next week. But this is for our quilt along. So remember to check that out on opengatequilts.com, and you can.
It's called
Spice It Up Quilt Along.
Spicy.
Mark's keeping me in line today. I'm a little scatterbrained, I guess, so he's trying to keep me in line. So anyway, spice it up. So this is what we're going to work on tonight. We're going to start picking fabrics. One of the things I love about quilting is actually picking the fabrics. I can spend days just playing with my fabrics and petting it and looking for fabrics online and going through my stash. And so I chose 3 different scenarios that I think would look really cool in this quilt. And I will show you the one we're working on, and or what the one I'm working on, and you will actually be able to get a fat quarter bundle of that fabric line from Maywood. And so it'll be for one lucky winner again. And after we get through the quilt along, and actually maybe next week we might do that so that they could get their fat quarters. But the fabric isn't even out yet, and we got a sneak peek of what it's gonna be. So that was exciting, so I'll show you that. But let's start here. Let's go over here, honey. All right, don't look at this, just we're gonna look at this. Okay, let's move this a little bit. One of the things that I do when I'm choosing fabrics is I like to pick my focal print and then choose the fabrics from there. So this is one of my fabric lines that I designed. It's I don't even remember which one it was, probably the 4th. And I just love this print. I think it's a really cool print. One of the things that I like about the print is that you can use both the red border and the black border together, or you can just use the black border. In this scenario for our pattern, if you see, I've got a border out on the outside and an inner border here on the inside, that on this quilt, they're the same. On this example, I'm actually going to make them different so that you can see you do not have to follow exactly what I'm showing you that's in the pattern. I'm going to use this cool circular kind of border on the outside of my pattern, and then I'm going to use this coordinating fabric on my inside. And then for my background, I'm going to use a neutral light. So that's going to be all the white that you see in the pattern. So what the instructions call for is 2 1/4 light and 2 3/4 yards of green print, which I'm saying is this, but I'm going to use 2 of them. So if you are doing something like this, you just have to make sure that you have enough length of your border print to go around the quilt. So you have to make sure you have at least 80 inches, and that's how I would figure out what I needed for my outside border. So that's about 2 1/2 yards. I would even go a little farther and do 2 3/4 just to be safe. But I have plenty of this fabric, so I'm not worried about this. This is actually, you don't need a lot of it because this inner border here is only 4 inches, so it's not like I'm going to need a huge amount of it. So that's where I started with this fabric. Then what I did was I looked at what my dominant colors were, and I decided to do for my, the other thing we need is 16 fat quarters of assorted dark prints. So I decided that I was going to use the black and the green. And then how I do that is basically I do exactly as I'm doing right now. How I'm showing you to do this is I will start taking some fabrics and I will lay them out by my main print and by my border or my background and see how they look. So in this scenario, because it says 16 light, 16 dark fat quarters, I need at least 8 of the black, and then I actually think I have 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope, I have 8, but I think I'm going to add some of this in too, because I think this would add a lot of interest in it when you cut it up. So when you cut your, that's another thing to keep in mind when you're pulling fabrics, is go for different scales. You don't want everything to be really small or really large or tone on tones. You want some different, like this one is a really tiny scale. This one's a little more spread out. This one's a little bigger. This one is actually just a solid. Solids add, I think, a lot of interest too. And then just like a tone on tone, a cream on tone. So it really, you really kind of play around with your colors. If there's one that you see that you think, ugh, that just drives me crazy, take it out. You don't need to. Use it. Use what makes you happy. That's how I look at it. And then I also need to pick some greens. And I did not realize how many greens I have in my stash, because this is just a small fraction of what I probably shouldn't be saying that in front of Mark. He has no idea. Because I was like, oh, look at that green. That's cool. Oh, look at that green. So I get.
Choose to ignore that.
Thank you. Makes us a happy marriage by choosing to ignore that. So these are the greens that I chose. Again, I chose minimum of 8 because I need a total of 16. So I've got 8 black and 8 green. And you want to make sure when you do your greens that they have a good strength to them, meaning when you put it next to the black, you don't want to go something super light or it's going to fade away into your background and all you'll see is the black. So these greens do have good substance to them. They're deep enough that they can handle it. Again, I went with like a cream on the green, more of a tone on tone, couple tone on tones. This one I think is going to cut up really cool because it's got a lot of movement to it. So you kind of play around with your greens and see what you can come up with. Remember too, when you're doing this, the pieces aren't huge. Now, when I say that, I'm saying these little 4 patches and all these half square triangles are not huge, but the center is 4.5 inch square. So keep that in mind. So you know that you're going to have 4.5 inch squares of all these colors. So I went with a little smaller scale so that I didn't have to worry about cutting it up and making it look funny. So that's where this palette has come from. So I've got my 8 greens, my 8 blacks, my background, and my 2 borders. Now, if you think, oh, I've got way more fabric, put as much as you want in. It doesn't matter how many you have. This is just a minimum. So I say a minimum of 16 fat quarters. And sometimes when I'm designing a pattern, just to give you a little insight, I might not need exactly 16. I could probably get away with less. I could probably get away with 10 fat quarters. But to get the variety that I wanted in this quilt, I chose 16 so that I didn't repeat too much, especially for the center blocks. So that's another thing to keep in mind too. The more the merrier. If you want to do, instead of doing one background, do a bunch of backgrounds. And you just have to have a minimum of 2 1/4 of your light print. I would always bump that up a little bit, especially if you're going scrappy. This is for yardage. So if you were going scrappy, I would do 2 1/2, 2 3/4, or 3. So that's just kind of a little insight on how I design and how I'm picking my fabrics. So that's my first scenario, the blacks and the greens. I put those aside so we can go to the next scenario. Any questions while I'm doing this one?
Not for us.
No,
but,
not for
not
us.
Not for us.
Oh, we got questions though?
There's questions for the audience.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Are you questioning the audience?
No, I'm not, but I believe Heather is. So
Well, hi Heather. How you doing?
we want to have a huge shout out to the Mukwonago people in Mukwonago there.
Hi, Mukwonago Guild. It was the Crazy Quilter Quilt Guild in Mukwonago, Wisconsin. I was there last Wednesday, and oh my gosh, had a blast. They were awesome, and hopefully people are starting to watch us.
I don't even quilt, and that was a good deal.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun, and they were very receptive, and we had a really good time. Okay. So here's my second scenario, which is totally different from the last one. The last one's very classic, but if you know me at all, and you probably are getting to know me a little bit, you know I love Halloween. So the first thing I thought of was, I want to do Halloween. So I checked out my Halloween stash, and I will have to say that I don't think I have found all my Halloween stash. How long ago did we move? 3 years?
3 years. Yeah.
3 years. I still haven't found all my Halloween stash, so I know I have more fabric. But this is what I could find at the moment. And again, I went into my scenario of, okay, I need 16 fat quarters, 2 1/4 yard light, and 2 3/4 of the green print, which is the border.
And the name of the quilt along again is?
Spice it up, quilt
Spice
along.
it up.
Spice it up, quilt along. Okay, so I know I have a Kleenex around here somewhere.
Let's see a close up of this quilt.
All right, there you go. Anybody, what's the question that Heather has? Because now you've got me curious on.
Well, I believe she was asking a question for the audience.
I know, but I still want to know. I'm nosy.
Who would anyone dare to make this pattern in super bright colors? Just curious.
Yes, definitely. I think that would be cool. Not that I'm the audience, but I'm answering anyway. I think it would be really cool and really bright. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You could even do in kind of like a rainbow kind of thing. Would be cool. All right, so my next thing to show you is the Halloween. And with the Halloween, I haven't quite decided exactly what I'm going to do. But these are my thoughts, and this is something that you can kind of think about. Go with something that's not a traditional background. I might go with the black. And then for my fat quarters, I was thinking of using the orange and the creams, and then in the centers of all my big blocks here, which are 4 1/2, I was thinking of coming back with the black, so they would just pop out with the half square triangles around the side. So that's one option. The other option is to do like I told you to do and go scrappy, and maybe do scrappy background and use the blacks and the oranges for your half square triangles and your chains. Or you could even stick with the black background and do scrappy black background and do these as all your other pieces, so your fat quarters. Now remember, if you are going to do this, you either need to have a total of 16 fat quarters, or you want to make sure you have enough fabric. So I would do half yards if I only had 8 fat. And that was just to make sure. I'm sure you're going to have plenty of fabric, but I want to make sure you do. Now then, the next question would be, what am I going to use for my borders? Because you need to use your borders that will divide it out. Well, this was my first thought, because I love this fabric. I think it's super cool. I thought because it brings in both the orange and the black, this would be a great border print. Or I also love this fabric, which I think would be a really cool border print as well. If I did use this one, I might actually eliminate the orange and do something like that. But I kind of like the orange. I think it's kind of cool. So for this one, I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do. But if I do it in these colors, I will definitely do more of a scrappiness, have some more blacks in there than the traditional, like I said, the 2 1/4 light for background. I probably would do scrappy or put those in the center. Another thought I had was fussy cut some of these and put them in the center there as well. So there's some ideas on what you can do with a Halloween prints. Do you like the Halloween, honey?
Yeah.
He likes the Halloween. So, next thing is, what did we finally decide on? I finally decided on this cool fabric that is new from Maywood Studio. And it is
New fabric.
New fabric.
Oh,
Love it.
Yeah.
It's called All the Trimmings.
This is cool stuff.
It's very cool. And it's very retro, which is a lot of fun. In this print, when I saw it, I thought this would be an awesome border. So for the little border, I would just cut them this way. For the bigger border, which is about 7 inches, you would just fussy cut a little bit more like that. So this is going to be my border fabric. So that's my border fabric. The next thing I'm thinking is that I need to pick my background. Now, when I first saw the fabric, she sent me some pictures of it online. I thought, this is really cool fabric. I really like this fabric a lot. But my fat quarters are pretty light. Most of them are, these are my fat quarters here. So a lot of them are very light. And I thought if I put, of course I wouldn't use that one, but if I put these next to it, I'm not going to get the contrast that I need to go with it. So what I decided to do was, although I love this fabric, I think I'm going to go with a tone-on-tone or a white. And what that's going to help is it's really going to pop my fat quarters. So if you look here, I pulled the greens and the reds, and I have 10 of them. Remember how I was saying you might not need all 16? Well, I have 10 of them, and I figured out, and I'll put this down for everybody so they can see if they only have 10, how to cut to get your use enough for 10. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fussy cut these prints, the light prints, for the 4.5-inch centers of my blocks.
We'd like get a nice close-up of that pattern.
Yes.
Again.
There you go.
And for a brief station identification, this is Open Gate Quilts. Please go to our website, www.opengatequilts.com.
That's right. This pattern, the material list is already posted, so check it out. We're starting the actual cutting, probably a little sewing, starting next week. So I'm just going over the different fabrics that would be, that you could use for it. So this is actually, like I said, what I'm actually going to be using for it. So I'm going to use, for my darks, my 16 darks, I'm using my reds and my greens. And this is another reason is there's not a lot of reds and not a lot of greens. There's a lot of light prints. So the reason I didn't go with this cool print is that I'm not going to get enough contrast in there. So I wanted to make sure I got that good pop of color. So that's why I'm going to put these in the center. So these are going to be all the centers. Isn't this the coolest fabric?
It's really cool.
It is cool. It's got Dear Santa, and it's going to be so much fun cut up. I love that fabric. So that is really cool. Again, this is all the trimmings by Maywood Studio. It's new. There will be a giveaway in the next couple of weeks of a fat quarter bundle. So keep tuned. Keep coming back because we're going to be sending you one. One lucky winner will get one. And then, so I'll put these in the center. These are going to be all my little 4 patches and all the outside of those. So that's my decision. Oh, one more thing. She also sent me this cool stripe, candy cane stripe, which I am going to use for my binding. So that's going to be really cool.
That's cool.
So that is fabric selection. If you are working on your fabric and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do, shoot me an email, shoot me a message, say, hey, can you help me pick fabric? It's one of my favorite things to do, so I'll be more than happy to do that. And I can help you see, get a better idea of what would work well with it. Because sometimes when you get fabric, you're like, I don't really know what to do with it, but you really like it. So if I can help you use up that fabric, it would be a great thing. So these...
Is this fabric in the stores right now?
It is brand new. I think it's shipping soon. So it's like sparkling brand new. It's
So
just
be
coming
sure
out.
to ask your local quilt shops for Maywood Studios.
All the trimmings. Yes. So if you do win or if you want to get a fat quarter bundle, you certainly can order one. And if you do happen to win one, you can always get this cool print for your borders. And another thing, there's 2 colors. I wanted to show you these too. There's some gray in there. So there's a very, very light gray. So if you decide you don't want to do the traditional white, you can always do the gray instead of the white and use even a really light gray background. And here are some more of the grays. See, that's the cool print that I love. So there's some options for you. That is what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be working. So I am going to be busy working on this, getting this ready, cut out. So for next week, I will show you how to get this all cut out and ready to sew. So your assignment, if you choose to take it, is to get your fabrics. And like I said, if you have any questions on the fabrics, please let me know and I will help you. Well, I have more. I got lots more than we can't get rid of them yet. They're not allowed to leave yet. Because I want to show you how to make that point too.
Oh, okay.
But have I been talking a long time? No, okay. Sometimes I just get a yakking and I forget where I'm at. So, so next week I need you to start gathering your fabrics. And don't worry if you don't have them all and you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta get it done. She told me. Don't worry. Our videos are always gonna be up there and they're on YouTube now too. So check that out. All right, Mark's giving me the thumbs up for mentioning the YouTube because he's been working hard getting those suckers on there. So, okay, so that is our quilt-along. The next thing I'm gonna show you, because I wanna show you how to make that corner beam is what it's called, or kite, I guess. Oops, let's get rid of some, move this fabric out of the way. Any questions does anybody have while I'm getting organized here?
What is the ruler you were talking about earlier?
This is the ruler. This is the ruler that I am talking about. It's called the Corner Beam. It's by Deb Tucker, and it's Studio 180 is her business. And these rulers, I have several of her rulers. The reasons I like them so much is that she has the same philosophy of me as me, is easy for me to say, is she makes things larger and squares them down. And the nice thing about that is you know it's going to be accurate. So that's why I use these rulers, because the original quilt I did, I used templates and they turned out fine, but to make it so much easier, I used, for this quilt, I actually used her corner beam. And the reason it makes it easier is it makes your points come together much easier. Whereas if you look kind of closely on here, don't look closely, there might be off a little bit, where this one is it was much easier to put them together. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So let me show you first how to cut it, because that's one of the things. If you ever get any set of rulers, always keep the instructions, because I went to look at it today to get everything ready and I thought, oh, I know how to do that. Well, no, I didn't. I had to look at the instructions. So, and it also tells you, just like my rulers, it tells you what size of strip to cut. You actually use squares for these, tells you what size squares, all that stuff. And then it has awesome, helpful little diagrams to show you how to do things, because you know we do learn through seeing what's going on. So it does have instructions on how to do that. So what I'm going to do is, if you want to come a little closer, honey, and I'll kind of explain what you're going to do. All right, with her little chart here, she tells you what to cut, what the finished unit will be, what the cut size of the unit, so in other words, what the unfinished size is, what side triangle strip, so we need to cut a strip that's 5 inches, and she also tells me how many I'm going to get out of it. So she tells me I get 12 pairs. Then she tells me what size to cut my center at, which is a square, how many I can get out of a strip, and then it also tells me what the largest size unit made from the waist, because there's a few waist triangles. So she actually uses everything up in this, which is awesome. So I'm going to do the one I just showed you, the 4, the 4.5, the 5. And I've already cut a 5-inch strip. And the first thing I'm going to do is I need to cut a square, which I did already. So I cut my square, not to worry. This is where I needed to look for my instructions because there's a couple of different things on here. I'm going to turn it over so you can see. There's the side triangles trim number 1, center beam trim number 2. It's got center beam trim number 1. So it gives you all these things. You have to keep them straight. This is for squaring up, so we are going to ignore that for now. But I'm going to use the center beam trim number 1, and what you'll do, following the instructions, is I'm going to line it up here and line it up on the bottom there. And I'm going to trim that off. Okay. That's what she was saying would be the extra to make your other pieces if you wanted to save those. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to rotate it around, and I'm going to center beam trim number 2. So you have to remember this is your center, and you're going to cut. Okay, so that's my center beam. Okay, and then for the sides of it, I'm going to use a strip. And it even says right here again, side triangles trim number 1. So you're going to line it up along the edge there and trim. And then the next one, you're going to use, I got to figure out how we do this. There we go. If you look, I'm going to put this underneath here. Side triangle trim number 2, second trim. And if you're going, what the heck is she talking about? The instructions tell you the whole thing. But it's very straightforward. You just have to read a little bit. And then you can trim, and you can use the whole strip up. And the nice thing, if you put wrong sides together, you get your mirror images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these, and there's 2 ways you can do this, right? You can put them on here, or you can put them on here. This is really what we want. We want a square. So you want to make sure, because I've done this too, is I've put them on the wrong side. So my suggestion is do one and have it as a template and go from there. I do that for a lot of things. I make one complete block, one complete piece, then I can chain piece. And the reason I do that is I want to make sure that I do this correct. I don't want to have to undo all that work that I did. So I do one and go from there. So we're going to line this up. Then what you'll do is you're going to line this up. And again, it tells you how to line it up. So it's going to be up along the edge a little bit there and there. Remember, they're oversized, so if it's not perfect, it'll be okay. So let's go over to the sewing machine.
To the machine.
To the machine. Anybody have any questions yet?
Nothing yet.
Okay. Hope everybody's feeling good, ready for the holiday, all that fun stuff. So we got Zed and Tilly groom this week, and the groomer told us that Zed is shedding, like we didn't know that already. He's got his summer coat coming in. Okay, so I'm going to, like we always do, set our seam using, again, Awesome Aliso iron, and press out. Okay. And then you're going to take your other piece and you're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over here. And sew it. Remember, you're going to use your scant 1/4 inch. And then again, set your seam and press out. Okay, So now that I've sewn it, see how quick that went, I'm going to take it over and square it up. Remember how I told you on the ruler, this is my squaring part. So what she has you do is she has you do the points first. So you're going to line up this line here and this line here and trim it. Rotate it one more time, and now I'm going to line it up on the 4.5, and I'm also going to line up that little triangle there. Remember, 4.5 is my unfinished size. Oops, slipped a little bit. And I trim, and I trim. What's so nice about it is this is exactly in the center when I get my 1/4 inch, so when I put my floor patch next to it, everything flows together. So that's how you use that ruler. So this is a great ruler if you're doing this kind of thing. Remember, the one person gets this giveaway. It is called Primrose Lane, and it is on the website, and it's on sale until next week. And again, make sure you comment, say hi, share. Mark's giving me the share and the like and all that fun stuff, and make sure that you say where you're from. I love to hear from where everybody's from. So remember, next week, gather your fabrics. If you have questions, message me, ask me, I'll help you out. Even if you wait till next week and you want to show, send me some pictures. I can help pick fabrics. Again, that's one of my favorite things to do. And we will start on our quilt along. So hopefully everybody enjoyed. Have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see you next Thursday. Quilt, bind, and enjoy.